we're chased by a lion and we escape, we'll be spending the rest of the day thinking, who was that guy? Why was he after me? Did I ever do him before? Have I ever seen him before? Oh my God.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah. Welcome to the Wake Up Call podcast, where we talk all things sleep, wellness, and health. The Wake Up Call podcast is brought to you by Polysleep, the best memory foam mattress in Canada. Welcome to the Wake Up Call. I am joined today with Dr. Patrick Owen. I got to read your credentials because it's quite impressive. So not only you're a Ph.D. in Ancestral Health and Functional Nutrition, you're also a lecturer at McGill University about human nutrition, and you wrote more than 2 books. You're a Vistage speaker. You've been previously hosting Ask Man's Tribe series, and many more qualifications. So please tell me about nutrition, tell me about sleep. We all need some advice about that.
Cheers. It was a massive pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Jeremiah.
Let me start with probably dumbest question I could ask, but the most important one to me. What the heck is ancestral nutrition?
Ancestral nutrition is just a fancy way of looking at evolution as the closest thing to universal truth when it comes to nutrition. Nowadays, we're looking at nutrition for metabolic disorders, and it's a mess. It's so hard. We're a very complex species. And even if we have like the most rigorous, double-blind, randomized control study, we're not sure how that applies to the real world. So nutrition is a very confusing, controversial, contradictory field in the library, online, but it's just as crazy in research. So that's why I use evolution. So ancestral is basically a foundation of evolution with a sprinkling of culture, and that's what ancestral health, wellness, and nutrition is.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because it is very easy nowadays to find a lot of content about how to lose weight, gain weight, bulk. But as soon as we start talking about maintaining, I don't find anything. Right? It doesn't seem to be that popular on YouTube.
Well, once you found the golden, the golden ticket, you're set, right?
Balance is a hard thing to master.
For many people.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your personal journey that brought you into health, nutrition, and that we've had the opportunity to talk a lot about sleep, which I'm very, very interested about. But what brought you to study that, doing a Ph.D. and now teaching the new generation about it?
Well, it all started with a glass of wine. So check it out. Do you remember back in the 80s, something called the French paradox?
Okay, yeah, I heard of it. I wasn't there yet.
So here researchers in the West were wondering, like, what's going on in France? They're all skinny, but they smoke like crazy. They drink like crazy, like fish. They eat tons of saturated fat and cholesterol and sodium. Butter, creams, all these things. And we've considered this back in the days, or hopefully, depending on who you're talking to, as the villains of the obesity epidemic and cardiovascular disease. So we thought, hey, maybe they're doing something to protect themselves from developing heart disease. So researchers went out there and thinking, like, what are they doing different? And we found out that red wine seems to protect or reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. And in the world of nutrition, which is almost all bad news when it's in the media, this is the very first time where everyone was like, that means that drinking wine is actually a health food?
I can drink wine?
Yeah, I can drink wine. Okay, so when there's good news, that means there's money. And when there's money, there's more research. And that's when I came in. Because we asked that question, are there any other cultures in the world where you take something that protects you from an otherwise atherogenic diet, or what we believed at the time, right? So that's why it's called the French paradox, because despite eating such a horrible diet, they're not dying. What's going on? So I had identified the Tibetan Highlanders. So the Highlanders obviously live at high altitude, and I stayed with them. Now, have you ever heard of Tibetan tea?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, what do they put in Tibetan tea?
Oh God, that I have no idea.
Have you ever heard of bulletproof coffee?
No.
Okay, the whole idea came from Tibetan tea. You basically put fat and salt rather than cream and sugar inside of your tea.
So that's what it is about.
So Tibetan tea is yak butter and salt, but like obscene quantities. From the moment they get up, they drink it. From the moment they go to bed, they drink it all the time. Seriously, when I was there, I was indoctrinated into thinking that butter and salt were not good for you. But basically, that was the majority of my calories. In terms of food, they have tsampa, which is a traditional food. It's barley, the only plant food that they have. And they cook and they make a bowl out of it. And inside the bowl, they put more butter tea, make a ball, and eat it.
That's crazy.
I couldn't find anything that could protect them from cardiovascular disease. So that was my thesis down the drain. So I went down to a valley further down where there's more plants that grew. And I looked at Tibetan medicines, but it still didn't explain why these Tibetan Highlanders consumed massive amounts of saturated fat, cholesterol, sodium. They lived at high altitude, which increased the viscosity of their blood, which is an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease. And on top of that, no cardiovascular disease, no obesity, and no fruits and vegetables. That the only plant that they ate was barley. So I came back and I studied the books. I'm thinking like, something's going on, because while I was there, I'd never felt better in my life. And there's the thing, I did not attribute it to the diet. I attributed it to the sleep, because I was in the clean Himalayan airs. There was no TV, there was no screens. I went to bed soon after sunset. You know what I mean? So I thought, like, this is good. But it's only when I came back and I hit the books and I realized, you know what? There's no paradox. Human beings are able to adapt to any resources around them. And I have to completely rethink the role of saturated fats and cholesterol and sodium and even more in our modern dietary recommendations.
So we're talking a bit about ancestral health and functional nutrition, which drastically varies from countries, religion. What's the effect of that on sleep and vice versa? Because there seems to be a massive effect on it.
Well, I think when it comes to nutrition and sleep, I think the big question is what not to eat has a much better effect of what to eat.
Okay.
And this is actually universal. Elimination diets work. For example, there's a joke that I love to tell in my class, right? A patient walks into a doctor's office, says, "Doc, every time I drink my cup of coffee, I get a pain in my eye." And the doctor says, "Oh, well, take the spoon out of the cup." Okay, it's as simple as that. But today's medical paradigm is all about like, "Oh, well, let me get you some medication for your eye." It's still happening. "Oh, well, let me get you medication." You know what I mean? So it's add. But all living things react much better by eliminating things. So if we talk about how to get the best sleep, my first thing is like, well, let's make sure you get out of these foods which can interfere with sleep. So we can go through them if you'd like.
Maybe some of them. What are the most popular that people don't? Obviously, is coffee, right?
No,
tea,
well, okay.
Right?
Okay, hold on. Yeah. Coffee is controversial because there are so many genes that react with the numerous compounds in coffee, including caffeine. And there's a lot of cultures where it's very normal to have an espresso right after the last meal, right? So you have to figure out how you individually react to caffeine. Because on a population level, caffeine is associated with lower rates of diabetes, better insulin control, but it's so variable. So you have to figure out what role it plays in your life. And obviously, if you're having a hard time sleeping, that'd be one of the things I'd say, like, well, drink less of it or stop before 2 p.m. or something.
What would be the uncommon most popular
food?
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to talk about booze. I'm going to talk about booze because I was talking to some relatives in there. They'd be like, no. I mean, how else do you expect me to fall asleep? Right? Now, here's the thing with alcohol. It is a sedative. It will reduce sleep latency, but it will minimize the amount of time that you spend in REM sleep.
Quality of sleep.
Exactly. Yes. So what I tell all my clients is you should take up day drinking instead. Let it metabolize out of your body so that you go to bed, not metabolizing it. So same thing with, unfortunately, the latest research on CBD oil is also showing the same thing. It relaxes, reduces anxiety, puts you to sleep faster, but unfortunately, it interferes with REM.
With the REM, which is the most important part of sleep.
Right. So again,
how fast can you get into this REM cycle is critical.
It's very critical and it's highly individual and your environment. It's a complex thing, right? And so when I say like, hey, you don't have to give it up. You just gotta, an hour or two, depending on you, abstain from it.
So I was about to ask you, what are the things we should do or drink or eat before going to bed. But based on your philosophy, it might be better to look at our current habits and see what we can subtract to improve.
That's where you should start. Yeah. Food. Exactly. You know, that whole like, don't eat after a certain time, that, you know.
Is it true?
It works for a lot of people. We could talk about metabolic types and somatotypes and everything, but for the majority of the world, I'd say more than 50 to 60% of the human population, they take up a lot of energy to digest. In fact, when you look at the pie chart of our total daily energy expenditure, there's a thin slice called the thermic effect of food.
Yeah.
That's the amount of calories that we burn just to digest the food. So it's critical. Now, when you sleep, you're always, there's a lot of calories while you sleep. There's a lot of things going on. But if you're busy digesting for the first part of the night, it could be that that's what's affecting your sleep. So if a client says, I don't understand, I sleep 8 to 9 hours, but I don't feel refreshed, we'll talk about, well, how late do you sleep? How late do you eat before going to sleep? And so this goes into the whole fascinating world of chrononutrition, the timing of your meals, which really exploded after the popularity of intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
So most people are not hungry in the morning. And that's normal. From an evolutionary perspective, our body says like, it'll give you time to find food, hunt and everything. But after a few hours of an unsuccessful hunt, it'll start, hey, we're hungry. Come on, pick it up.
I need nutrients. Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of us says like, well, intermittent fasting, not a problem. I'm not hungry in the morning. But what if we did that fasting window later on at night? That's closer to our chrononutritional biological clock, these zeitgebers, right? These cues, environmental cues, because we only eat while we're in a awake state. So that eating is associated with wakefulness. So as soon as the sun goes down and you're starting eating, you're getting a little bit of a mixed message from your environment and your actions.
Because technically it would be much harder to sleep when you don't see anything, to eat when you don't see anything, rather than before the sunset.
Yeah, technically,
no, it's just logic.
It's just logic.
You don't see anything.
You can't even see your own mouth.
Interesting. So it really goes back to certain principles that are tied to our genetic, almost.
Absolutely, and how our genetics respond to our environment.
Exercise.
Okay.
when we were talking earlier about the fact that these people in high altitude were ingesting massive amount of fat and all, my first question was, okay, but how many steps are they doing?
Yeah.
Do they walk 10 times more than the average? Probably.
At an incline.
Right?
Right.
What's the effect of exercise?
Mm-hmm.
Because I consider it a trifecta.
Yeah.
Exercise plus nutrition plus proper sleep. If you nail that, the time you have in a day almost double because your energy level are drastically improved.
Mm-hmm.
How to optimize that trifecta?
That's a great question. But I have to make a preamble for that because the main reason why we're sleep deprived today is artificial light and psychosocial stress. Okay. So psychosocial stress is not something that we're well adapted to, right? We're always adapted to physical stress. So nighttime was a stressful time, and we can talk about that later on. But let's talk about psychosocial stress. I'm not sleeping enough. Now you take an individual who's not sleeping enough, but they do a workout. It could be an intense workout. Now, what does from your brain, from an evolutionary perspective, think what might be happening? First, you're not sleeping in a safe cave. You're not sleeping enough. And it doesn't know why, but it just knows that at our most vulnerable time in the day, when anything can crawl into our bedroom and kill us or harm us, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Therefore, it's a stress. And your fight or flight system is engaged. Now, of course, we'll adapt and we'll continue to adapt with low levels of sleep. But the entire time, it's all about, we need to find a better cave. On top of that, you're doing intense exercise, which your brain says like, man, we're being chased a lot in this environment as well. So this is where exercise can actually do more harm than good in today's society. So here's what I say. You have to know your level of conditioning, where you're adapted and everything. And if you can take it and you sleep well, fantastic, go for it. But if you didn't sleep last night because you got into a huge fight with your partner or you had insomnia, perhaps try to do something really soft today. Don't go crazy.
Walk for half an hour rather than doing a big HIIT training. Don't, because it's true. When you do weight training or when you do intense training, you do feel the stress.
Yeah.
Sore. It's a different type of stress.
It's a good stress. It's called a eustress, EU stress. Whereas a bad stress is called a distress. So this is a stress that makes you stronger, but a stress is a stress. So if you're already super stressed because, you didn't sleep well or several days of not sleeping well, but you continue with your checklist mentality, got to take my cold shower, which is a stress. I got to do my exercise, my CrossFit workout, which is a stress. All of a sudden you're burning out.
Yeah.
And you think that you're doing everything good.
Yeah, because the perception we see everywhere is like, oh, if you're into that 13% body fat and you train every day and you eat
no excuses.
Yeah, exactly. Like a gogging level of intensity. I don't know. This guy's an exception. I don't know why people try to do what he does.
From an evolutionary perspective, going to the gym was never a thing. Our parents hardly went, right?
True.
Grandparents never went to the gym. So we have to understand that what's going on. So if you're doing a workout, purposeful workout, there are hormones associated with that. Stress hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. Good stress, but still stress. Your brain knows that there's something intense going on, and it'll channel everything towards your sympathetic nervous system, which means the more blood to your muscles, increased rapid of respiration to increase oxygen delivery to your muscles. Fantastic. This is great. You've engaged the fight or flight, and there are so many benefits if you're sleeping well and you're not psychosocially stressed or physically stressed to begin with. Now, take walking, for example. In my course and in my talks, I like to use the Shawshank Redemption. Remember that movie? You guys remember the Shawshank Redemption? All right, so Tim Robbins escapes from jail by using a spoon. And he hides the hole with a poster, right?
Yes.
By using that spoon, the guards will never notice that a tunnel is being dug out. Now imagine that Tim Robbins had a pickaxe. He'll get out, he'll escape faster, but there's a higher likelihood that the guards will catch him. Our body works exactly the same way. By walking around, gardening, doing things where we can breathe normally, talk normally, but we're still moving around. This is called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You're burning fat and calories without inducing the stress hormones, no cortisol, nor adrenaline, and noradrenaline. The guards in our body is leptin, the hormone leptin, secreted every night by your fat cells, by your adipose tissues. It goes to your brain and basically tells your brain the inventory, how much fat we're carrying. And if you went for the pickaxe and you're so proud consciously that you burned 500 calories in your workout, your leptin that night is going to tell your brain, yeah, we're down 500 calories. And so your brain is being like, hold on, fat is a survival tissue. We made a massive withdrawal. We have to take compensatory methods in order to replace that hole. We caught you. So what's going to happen? A couple of days after, your appetite's going to be crazy. You're going to be tired. You're going to be inconsistent with your workout.
Right, we're all being told about the baseline of thermogenic. You need a caloric deficit if you want to lose weight. But you're so right about if you stress your body to a point where you're sleep deprived because you're hungry, and then you're demotivated, and your fat level are down, so your hormones are down and all over the place, it's just not sustainable. And then you need to go to the gym. No, you're right.
And that's what we think that's the best way to go.
Interesting. But so on the contrary, what would be a good approach for people who slowly want to incorporate better habits? It's funny, the reason why we create so much content around wellness and health when people change their mattress is because it's tied to life events. You have a newborn, you move on with your husband, wife, you separate, but something significant happened. And we know that when that happened, it's easier to create habits or change certain habits around that.
Yeah.
What would be a good thing to do when you have that opportunity?
When you're changing mattress?
When you have a habit or the opportunity to create a new habit?
Well, the first thing is the foundation, sleep. So anything that you can do to maximize your sleep, because sleep is a non-negotiable in life, right? But from an evolutionary perspective, it's actually counter-survival. Because you're so vulnerable, human beings, Homo sapiens, have adapted several community aspects to it. Number one, the first thing that's been around way before we appeared on scene was fire, the ability to control fire. So we always had fire. When we were in so many cultures, we sleep with fire, and we got up several times throughout the night to tend to the fire. It protected us from predators, and it kept us warm, and it gave us safety. Today, most of us are not allowed to light a fire in our bedroom, but we have red light therapy, which not coincidentally have the same wavelength as fire.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So fire relaxes us. We know that it reduces sleep latency and brings us deeper, more time in deep sleep for our humans, for babies, for even your pets. So there's a really exciting research going on for that. We also slept together, co-sleeping as a way to protect each other. And this is why weighted blankets is so good for children who are suffering from anxiety-based disorders like ADHD. It's because it kind of mimics the fact that they're sleeping beside a parent. So we all adapted these mechanisms in order to increase our ability to survive through the night. But today, we should have the best sleep ever. We have 100% control over our temperature, light, and sound, and none of us were afraid of not making it because we were attacked by a bear. None of us, right? So the stresses that we have today are different than the stresses we had yesterday. So let's begin with sleep, because if you're not sleeping well, you're basically giving a huge alarm bell to your entire brain saying, at my most vulnerable state, I'm not safe.
And that's what you need to capitalize on.
Yeah, I'm going to bed too late. I'm waking up in the middle of the night. All these things are basically giving you that message that this is not a safe cave to stay in.
So fix that.
Address it. Fight or flight. Yeah. Flight. Get away from here. Find a better cave.
I like the idea.
Yeah.
I like the idea. And there's a lot of technology, like you said, now that we're creating to compensate for that. We know it. Like you said, weighted blanket.
Yeah.
The type of fabric we use so that we control the temperature better in our sleeping environment.
That's fascinating.
Blackout curtains, so you don't have luminosity if you're, let's say, someone who works during night shifts or in bars or this or that. There's a lot of technology you can use to make that environment safer, technically speaking.
And incredible, all that technology makes sense from an evolutionary point of view. Because my question is why? For example, you mentioned temperature, a fantastic zeitgeber, because at night, sun's down, it's usually colder, right? Are you the kind of guy who sticks a leg out from under his blanket at night?
Not anymore.
Oh.
But I went from sleeping at about 22 degrees Celsius to 19.
Okay, that's the ideal, right? Between 16 and 19 degrees Celsius.
I can go lower than that. I know technically it should be around 17, 18. 19 is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
I sleep like a baby.
Fantastic.
But you're right. Before, absolutely, I was sticking legs.
You know why?
No, I'm curious.
Okay. Who here sleeps with a leg outside from their blankets? Unanimous. Everyone here. Here's why. No one across our entire species, almost all species, no one likes to have their face covered. It's dangerous, right? You always have to be, as soon as your eyes open, there's a monster in the closet, whatever. So we don't feel safe when we have anything over our face. So number one, we have our face uncovered, and we can usually detect the ambient temperature with our face.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not enough, especially with age or skin, weathering, beards, whatever. And so our body says, hey, it's cool out there. It's an indicator that it's nighttime, but you know what? Let's ask for a second opinion. And out comes an appendage.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So the body literally says, okay, let's triple check.
Yeah, exactly. And
wow.
It's also the sound as well. So it's light, sound, and temperatures, which are zeitgebers to tell you, like, hey, it's daytime, hey, it's nighttime.
Yeah.
So nocturnal creatures, basically crickets, grasshoppers, peepers, they have this rhythmic sound. Whereas diurnal creatures have more of like an alarm clock sound. So that rhythmic sound, it's never quiet. Ever go camping? It's never quiet outside, but it's rhythmic.
And it's relaxing.
AKA white noise. That's why white noise technology helps people book to sleep, because it reminds them that it's safe. And that goes further into the whole technology for alarm clocks. Because if you hear a loud snap outside of your campground, you wake up and your heart's pounding.
Yeah.
Because you think something's in my camp, like danger. That's what an alarm clock is. But you also wake up when your air conditioner knocks down. Or because that's basically all the crickets outside all of a sudden stop. And it's not as alarming, but you still wake up just in case something made them stop. So that's called a white noise or a silent alarm or a white noise alarm.
That's true. Now that you mention
For heavy sleepers, that's never going to work.
No, for a heavy sleeper, it does not.
Yeah.
Gut health is something we talk more and more about. There's some green product that I won't name that even abuse the idea that gut health is everything, and it costs $100.
Yeah.
For a lot of ingredients that we don't know much about.
Well, I know what you're talking about.
Right?
Yep.
Ultimately, I think it's great that we're becoming more and more aware. One thing I would like you to discuss a bit about is how unbelievable lack of sleep can destroy gut health,
and vice versa.
Please educate us on that.
Well, let's start with that sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight. When you are in that state, there are certain, like I said, the blood flow is focusing on things to make you fight or to make you address it, run away. And so there are certain systems that say like, well, now it's not the right time to do this. They're associated with the opposite, which is parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest. So digest usually happens when you are feeling safe. So if you are stressed out, you are compromising your ability to digest because you're not spending enough energy doing it. Remember that there's two major systems that shut down when you're chronically stressed, your digestive system and your reproductive system. And that expression, I was so scared that my pants, I don't know, can you say dirty words?
Yeah. It's okay. We're going to beep it.
I was so scared that I my pants. Ooh, that feels good. Okay. Okay. So like, say for example, okay, that a bear walks in, and just like, fight or flight, right? I'm stressed out and I got to run as fast as possible. Like, so everything goes towards, my time slows down, my pupils dilate or taking more information. My muscles are tense, my things are tense. Everything's getting ready to run as fast as possible. But then my digestive system is telling my brain like, hey, we're still digesting here. My brain will be like, abort. Okay. Now I'm a faster runner.
So that's literally what's happening.
Literally what is happening. But on a chronic low-level systemic stress, you're looking at digestive issues. For example, 100% of clients who come to see me with digestive issues, IBS, diverticulosis, celiac, Crohn's, whatever like that, they'll come and say like, I want a diet with prebiotics, probiotics, etc. And I'm thinking like, let's check your sleep. And 100% of them, it's because they're stressed out.
Stress and sleep is
overwhelmed. Exactly. You fix that, you're going to fix your digestive system. Your reproductive system, you're basically saying like, hey, we're stressed. Not a great time to get randy. So, number one reason why low testosterone and for fertility issues, we're stressed. Second, so that's how digestion and sleep are tight, because if you're not sleeping well, that's a stress. You're not digesting well. It's a given. But serotonin, let's talk about serotonin, the happy hormone, right? 90 to 95% of all serotonin is produced in your gut by enterochromaffin cells. And it depends on a healthy gut flora. And your gut flora relies on a healthy intestinal lining. So if any one of those things is compromised, you're going to get digestive issues. Now, here's the thing with serotonin. Serotonin, which is produced in the gut, some of it will travel up the vagus nerve and end up in the brain. Now, all the serotonin that ends up in the brain, once blue light is cut at the end of the night, at the end of the day, all that serotonin will convert into melatonin. So, the more serotonin you have throughout the day, the more melatonin you'll have at night, which is that vicious cycle, because it goes to say that happy people sleep the best. And ironic, those who are suffering from anxiety and depression have sleep issues, the majority of them, like 85% of them. And people will tell them like, well, go to bed early or get to sleep, but that's not enough. They have to go outside. They have to do all the things that raise serotonin throughout the day. And at the end of the night, they'll be like, I sleep better. Anything. It could be like hanging out with friends, things that depressed people don't want to do. Go outside. You know what I mean? So, and there are certain foods, not all of them that healthy, like chocolate.
And dark chocolate, you're going to tell me, with 90% cocoa.
Yeah, no, it's great. Go for it. But if I have an addictive personality, which will exacerbate when I'm stressed or sleep deprived, their calories are there.
Yeah, that's true.
And the number one reason there's an obesity epidemic is because of two truths for the majority of us, not all of us. Those ectomorphic or ectomesomorphic, these don't apply, right? Go ahead and eat whatever you want. We all hate you. No, we love you.
But you're right. You're right. No, I know.
But I know that carb cravings go through the roof during times of stress and sleep deprivation. That's the truth number one. Truth number two, if I eat too many carbs, I will gain weight. If I follow a nutrition program and exercise program, I will lose weight initially, but then I'll hit a plateau because my cortisol will not allow me to burn more fat. See, cortisol is basically saying you're in a stressful environment. Fat is a survival tissue.
Yeah.
So what I ask my students is, all right, pretend we're here in a peaceful, safe environment, the class, and all of a sudden a war breaks out outside. You have no clue what's going on, fight or flight, you got to pack up and go. Bring 3 things that you absolutely need for survival. I wait because the majority of the time a student will raise their hand and said, my cell phone. And I'll be like, no. A second person will be like, obviously your charger for your cell phone. No. The 3 things. You want to take a guess? A gander at what those 3 things? Basic survival. We're in the Walking Dead zone now. You got to survive for days. You have no idea for how long. You need 3 things just to survive.
Something sharp to hunt.
A weapon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something to shelter myself, I would say. So,
well, that's not, you can
cut something. Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
food and water.
Yeah.
Just to survive, right? Food, water, and weapons. And that's exactly what the human body does when it's perceiving a stress. Food is fat. It'll retain fat, make it really hard to burn. It'll retain water retention, edema, and inflammation. Inflammation is your weapon. Or medicine, depending on how you look at it. All this is rise because from an ancestral point of view, from an evolutionary point of view, we're about to be attacked.
So we're turning that eco mode.
Absolutely.
Metabolism need to slow down because we're not going to be able to access food as easily. We don't know. We don't think, oh, am I going to have the perfect macronutrients and all?
Oh, yeah. It's like how lucky you are.
I can eat a cricket. Also,
that's the thing is that the psychosocial stress will have the exact same physiological response as actual stress. And this leads to rumination. I know we're not talking about sleep, but the majority of the time people can't get to sleep is because they're overthinking and they're ruminating.
Yeah.
So rumination has an evolutionary purpose. It's to find a solution. So there's a great book called Why Zebras Don't Get Cancer. When a zebra is chased by a lion, obviously fight or flight, it'll run for its life. And then when it escapes, it'll go right back to eating grass and it's going right back to baseline. Homo sapiens, with our developed frontal cortex, will try to rationalize what the heck that was about. We're chased by a lion and we escape. We'll be spending the rest of the day thinking, who was that guy? Why was he after me? Did I ever do him before? Have I ever seen him before? Oh my God. And we're going to overthink. And then we're probably going to think, you know what I should have done? I should have turned around and like this. We replay events and we always do this, right? Now take that situation and put it on like you just got yelled at by your boss. Man, that's going to ruin your day. And you're going to overthink it and you're going to be like, you know what, I had the perfect comeback. If I had the perfect comeback for that,
Yeah.
So rumination is, I'm trying to find a solution. Tomorrow, I'm not going to go by that area. Or if I go by that area, I'm going to bring a bigger weapon. You have to find a solution for rumination. That's the goal of overthinking something. But today, psychosocial stress, there's not an obvious way out. There's not an obvious solution. I have to go to work, right? I don't see like I have to work.
Yeah.
And so rumination without a solution is depression. If your mind thinks, there's no way out of this, man. What's your mind going to be like? Well, I have to walk by that bush again. That lion might come out again. Talk about living in a very unsafe, insecure, stressful environment. And it's no accident that we are suffering an epidemic of sleep deprivation, anxiety, depression, and suicide. Rumination without a way out is depression.
I hope you enjoyed the first part of my conversation with Patrick Owen. Stay tuned for part 2. Thank you so much for listening to The Wake Up Call. If you liked what you heard today, do not forget to rate, follow, subscribe, or perhaps leave a comment below. New episode of The Wake Up Call drops on the 3rd Wednesday every month. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. For all of us here at the Polysleep studio, I'm Jeremiah Carruthers. Until next time.